For decades, we've been hearing about this big march toward gender equality. But what if that march has pretty much slowed to a crawl? It feels like it, right? Despite all this progress we've made, some really stubborn inequalities are still hanging around. And I'm not just talking about paychecks. I'm talking about this hidden realm that affects literally everything else. Okay, let's get into it.
That is a huge question, right? And the answer? Well, it's not on the surface. We've got to look way past the obvious stuff and dig into these invisible forces that are shaping our lives, both at work and at home. And the data? It's pretty clear we're missing a massive piece of the puzzle.
And look, don't think this is some old problem we've already fixed. This is happening right now. I mean, the World Economic Forum's brand new 2024 report, it's a real wake-up call. It shows that women are still underrepresented in basically every industry and economy. From the fanciest boardrooms to the factory floors, that gap is still there. It's the stalled revolution right in front of our eyes. But the why? The why is where things get really complicated.
So to really get why things have stalled, we can't just look at the work we can see. We have to go deeper, into a kind of labor that, well, it doesn't show up on any spreadsheet. It's not in any economic report. We're talking about the work that's happening inside our own heads.
Yeah, it has a name. It's called the mental load. And let me be clear, this is not just about doing the laundry. It's about remembering that you're almost out of detergent. It's noticing your kid's socks are getting way too small. It's about remembering to schedule that dentist appointment for 6 months from now. You know what I mean? It's that constant, low-level hum of basically being the project manager for an entire household.
And wow, this really shows you the difference. A recent study in the UK asked parents, hey, what's your share of all this thinking work? And what they found was just staggering. A 21 percentage point gender gap. Just look at the two peaks here. For men, the most common answer they gave was right around 50-50. But for women, that peak is way up there, closer to 80%.
So what exactly is all this mental work we're talking about? Well, researchers literally looked at what people wrote down when they were asked. And the top categories are probably not going to surprise you. It's the constant scheduling and planning, managing cleaning and paying bills, keeping track of everything for school, and this big one, just anticipating what everyone is going to need next. It's that never-ending to-do list that just lives rent-free inside your brain.
Okay, so what happens when your brain is basically running all this extra software in the background, 24/7? What does that do to your ability to handle, well, everything else? This is where we start to see the real direct consequences.
Now, this is fascinating. This shows a direct link. In one experiment, researchers did something really simple. They just asked one group of people to think about and list all their mental load tasks. That's it. And just doing that, just bringing it to the front of their minds, caused a measurable drop in how interested they were in things like politics and getting ahead at work, especially when you compare them to a group that didn't do the exercise.
And get this, it didn't even stop there. That same group, the one that was thinking about their mental load, also said they'd rather work almost 2 fewer hours per week. So this shows us that this cognitive burden isn't just a feeling, it's not just being tired. It actively crowds out the mental space you need for your career, for your community, for everything. And then there's this quote from one of the mothers in the study, and it says it all, doesn't it? I find it difficult to imagine having space left in my head to take on more work. I wish for a clone to be a wife for me. See, it's not about a lack of ambition, it's not about a lack of skill. It's a lack of cognitive bandwidth. It's that feeling of just being completely, utterly full.
So, okay, if this is happening in one house and another and millions of other households, what's the total effect on our society? Well, that's when the costs stop being invisible and become very, very visible.
Okay, look at this number, 2.3%. A huge study in Sweden looked at the economic impact of burnout, which is super closely related to this kind of chronic stress. And they found that burnout caused a 2.3% decrease in the country's entire national labor income in 1 year. That is a massive, massive economic hit.
And the damage goes way beyond just that one number. The same study found that when someone burns out, it leads to a lasting drop in their own earnings. But here's the kicker. It also ripples out. It reduces their spouse's income, and it can even hurt their kids' chances in school. It actually destabilizes the entire family. And this burden isn't just about money. A study out of Brazil adds its really critical health angle. Just take a look at these numbers. So you can see women report higher levels of that work-family conflict, but the real story is what happens next. The rate of depression among women is double that of men. Double. And for anxiety, it's nearly triple.
The data is drawing a straight line from this unequal workload at home to some seriously different mental health outcomes. So, after seeing all of this, the way it crowds out your brain, the huge economic costs, the impact on our health, it just forces you to see this problem in a completely different light, doesn't it?
Look, when you boil it all down, what it really means is that for way too long, we've treated the mental load like it's some private, personal problem to be solved inside the home. But this data, it shows that's just not true. It's a public health issue, it's an economic issue, and it's a huge reason why the gender revolution has stalled. This invisible work, well, it has a very, very visible and very high price tag.
And that just leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. I mean, we are experts at measuring things like GDP, productivity, all the labor that happens in the market. But what would happen if we started applying that same focus, that same seriousness, to the invisible work that makes all that other work possible? What kind of potential for all of us, for our whole society, could we finally unlock?